How about now? All right. I understand you handle many different equipment vendors in your process. And I think that I heard that you do remote diagnostics afterwards. How do you do that? Do you have your own client of some sort that you put on the various pieces of equipment and bring it back to a management system? What's your process?
So we are CP agnostic because we actually run on either the field tech or the customer's device through a mobile app. So the app is serving the network from inside the home, not accessing the actual device itself. So that is where we're different, and we allow service providers to support 100% of their install base because CPU fragmentation is real, right? I dare you to find an operator today that has just one vendor in their network. And so being able to support that at scale is something that we saw as a real challenge, and that's where we built our solution. So the barrier to entry, of course, is getting the app to get installed on the customer's device. That's the #1 problem we have, but once it's there, the information that's captured, gathered, analyzed, and then the results that are returned is what allows us to go cross-platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And also, thank you for supporting the WBA. So you are our newest member.
We are the newest. I think we're fresh today.
I think this conversation was route this, and I've got to train myself because I'm Brit, so we would say route this.
Route this,
right?
Yes.
So I really need to train myself to say route this. This started about 3 weeks ago, so thank you for coming on board so quickly and for your support.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
The work you're doing is super relevant. So Tiago this morning, he was sharing a roadmap. So the work that we're doing in residential Wi-Fi over the last 5 years, we have a lot of ISPs and telcos that are really interested in how to stop that truck roll. You're doing a lot of work in AI, ML that's just beginning. So really looking forward to having you on board.
Yes, we're excited to be a part of all of that. And so thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay. And you did a great job in re-energizing us after lunch.
Yes, okay, everyone's good to go. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so next we have our panel session. So we're going to invite a few people up to the stage. We have Ricky Taft, who's Senior Lead Product Manager for Broadband Services at Cox. Welcome, Ricky. Scott Stinson, Head of Customer Solutions at Airties. Welcome, Scott. And finally, we have Sudeep Bose, who's Senior Director and Product Manager at Gravity at Synamedia. Welcome.
Thank you.
So the theme for the session here, empowering small and medium businesses, leveraging platforms and managed Wi-Fi. So I was doing a bit of research, and thank you, Sudeep, this morning for some of those stats that you shared with me. But just in North America alone, 33 to 34 million SMB businesses. Pretty impressive. We expect Wi-Fi today, Wi-Fi has been around for 25 years. It's become an amenity. But with it, there are lots of challenges, issues that we've been trying to resolve over that time as well. So we're gonna jump into that next during this panel. A few questions. I think this is the initial first round. In fact, what I'll do, I'll ask each of you just to sort of introduce yourselves very briefly and just explain a bit about your roles and what your company does as well. So maybe Sudeep, you can go first.
Sure. My name is Sudeep Bose. I'm responsible for product management for Synamedia's Broadband Solutions portfolio, based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm glad to be here.
I'm Scott Stinson. I work for Airties. My role here is Head of Customer Solutions for the Americas. So basically my job is to help customers like Cox properly deploy our solutions and maximize the benefit of our solutions in their deployments.
Ricky Taft, nice to meet you all. I'm the Senior Lead Product Manager, primarily in charge of broadband and Wi-Fi devices for Cox business.
So first question to Sudeep, two-part question. I think just to explain to the audience, I guess some of the sort of challenges, characteristics that you see in the SMB market. Second part to that, sort of how it differentiates itself from the enterprise space as well.
Sure. Not sure I can remember all of that, but I'll try. So firstly, we can all acknowledge none of us go to Starbucks for their coffee, right? We go for the Wi-Fi. So that's really led to kind of, over the years, Wi-Fi becoming another utility, right? I mean, and that's been taken into the smaller businesses as a key component of what they need. But that's part of what they need, right? Of course, that's important for their internal networks as well as for the customer-facing networks. But they also need their point of sale systems to be up and running, right? They need that network security. All of that is very key and important for them, because if their point of sale systems are not working, their credit cards don't work, they can't process payments, et cetera. So reliability is one of the key factors. 1 week from today, and next Wednesday, on the 19th, we have a webinar where we go into this in a lot more detail. And Megan from Cox, she's going to be on the webinar with me and Scott as well, and we'll talk about kind of some of this. And you'll hear from Megan about how reliability is important, and she'll call out some kind of very specific use cases. But it's essentially in SMB, it's the lifeblood, right? If they don't have all of this working, they can't pay their mortgage. It's not about a missed quarter of earnings or something like that. It's literally an existential problem for them, right? So all of this running flawlessly and reliably is key. So that's one of the major things. In terms of how it's different from residential or enterprise, great question, great point. Enterprise tends to be, a lot more about performance and typically has a lot of IT people around it to support it. Residential is a lot about kind of the cost point, and it just kind of needs to work well enough, right? Enough that you don't have churn and such. And SMB is in the middle, because it's those same people who are from the residences who are coming in to use this, but they can't afford the cost of the enterprise solution, nor do they have the IT support to support it. 80% of SMBs are run by the owner proprietor, right? And another, the next biggest chunk, 16%, is under 20 employees. So operational efficiency is key, reliability is key, and many of these are run by people that are 35 years of age or older, so they're not very technology savvy. So it just needs to work, and it needs to be very simple.
I mean, personal experience, just a few weeks back, my Wi-Fi service at home was down, and I decided to take myself off to the single copy location, thinking they must have Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And they normally do, to be honest, but this one I went to didn't. So I ended up going to the big conglomerate down the road and getting Wi-Fi. But I think probably sort of like not the usual case.
Yeah.
Okay, question for Ricky. So from Cox's perspective, perhaps you can share your vision on how you guys are delivering Wi-Fi into this SMB space, and also how you differentiate your service.
Sure. I did prepare an interpretive dance, but I'll spare you. Just answer with words. Cox's vision is to ensure seamless, secure, reliable connectivity for SMBs up to about 5,000 square feet, deployed primarily via cloud-managed single gateway and smart deployment of Wi-Fi extenders. Cox Business aims to differentiate itself by bringing as many enterprise-grade features as we can down tier to the SMB segment. Primarily, this is fully customizable guest Wi-Fi, robust firewall and malware protection, power and cellular backup, and cloud-based Wi-Fi control. We realized that in order to deliver on this, we had to move away from the model in which we're launching gateways that are essentially a finished product at launch, and move to something with more open firmware that enables an active feature roadmap. That enters the partnerships with Airties and Synamedia. All of our new gateways now include the Airties Wi-Fi controller. This gives us rich analytics. It provides self-healing to prevent many of those calls from happening in the first place. And it provides Wi-Fi cures, so our agents who are not Wi-Fi experts can navigate those difficult troubleshooting conversations and make sure it's appropriate when to recommend an extender for a coverage issue. Synamedia developed the firmware for the gateway. They also manage the integration partnerships with not only Airties, but also Vantiva and Broadcom. They delivered the Gravity cloud management platform that we leverage and integrate with all of our Cox systems.
Got a question for Scott. I think sure. You guys have been very visible in the market of recent, lots of announcements coming out.
Yeah.
And I see anything you want to add to this, but also to explain a bit about the Airties value add in the equation here.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just, kind of reiterate what Ricky said. I think one of the keys for Cox as it relates to Airties was our flexibility. So Ricky mentioned proactive cures and recommendations. So one of the key things here for us is obviously we have a full suite of cloud tools and dashboards that we can provide to our operator customers. But when you deal with a Cox or you deal with a larger operator, they have their own OSS, BSS dashboards, et cetera. So what was really important for Cox was to make sure that there was flexibility. They were working with a partner, literally building a ground up solution from both what the subscriber was seeing in terms of the portal that they use to manage their own experience, but also the call center. And so that was an experience that Cox was defining with Synamedia. The last thing that they wanted was to have a wireless partner come in and then deliver a whole new set of tools where now you're pivot sharing to a different dashboard. So the value, one of the values was the fact that we had these open APIs that allowed them to bring in the key pieces for their call centers and for their customers that they wanted in a way that they felt was appropriate in language and presentation that flowed for their respective call center agents and customers. So that flexibility was important. Obviously, the quality of our Wi-Fi was significant. We wouldn't have gotten in the door had we not, battled it out with a wide range of hardware solutions, both high-end retail and the traditional Cox OEM partners, et cetera. So that was number one key, right? It was being able to deliver a very complicated Wi-Fi mesh solution that was stable, seamless. Devices went where they needed to go based upon the intelligence that we brought. So that was step one. But I would really say it was the flexibility that we gave Cox to be able to build the experience they wanted in a ground-up experience. And I think that was important for Cox because Cox really made a decision that said, we can take an existing canned solution from one of our partners, but that's not what we wanted. That's not what Cox wanted. They wanted to really build up a ground-up experience, understanding that SMB was really important for them and that they wanted to find what that experience was going to look like from start to finish. So I think that flexibility was really important from our perspective for Cox.
So you guys have participated in the WBA for a long time now, reside on the board, and we've seen you guys, we know you guys for being very active in the residential market space. Yeah. So perhaps a bit of insight as to why you expanded into this market.
Yeah, it was really kind of a natural evolution, to be honest. If you think about, especially post-COVID, the amount and complexity of traffic that traverses a home now, I would argue is probably far exceeds most businesses today in terms of the kinds and dynamic nature of the data. From multi-device streaming, roaming throughout the home, your son or your daughter on Xbox at the same time on YouTube, streaming a 4K video and playing Twitch and doing the complexity inside a home is significant. So all of this that we learned and all this intelligence we built in our algorithms and our steering methodologies, we saw that and said, this is a very good transition into the enterprise space, because what I think Cox really picked up on was there was a gap in the industry from a product perspective where you either had a residential product that could do kind of the residential thing, or you had a very high-end, expensive enterprise solution that was really designed for companies that had their own IT infrastructure, but there was nothing in between. And so it was a natural evolution for us with all the work that we had done, knowing how complex traffic was already from the home, to just carry that into the small medium business, and to say that a lot of those customers that spawn SMB, they don't come from enterprise, they come from the home, right? They're sole proprietorships that are effectively spinning out a business from the home. And whether it's your my wife's a speech pathologist, starting a business, having no understanding of technology, period. Well, where do you go for that? Well, you can hire somebody locally, but the best thing to do is to go to an operator who has that experience, who owns a circuit. And then Cox understanding the fact that at the end of the day, you're going to get the phone call whether you like it or not, whatever the issue is inside. So why not take advantage and monetize that?
I think we work in Wi-Fi. We probably get calls from our friends every day to help them figure out their Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's my kids usually.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to open out to the audience next and see if there are any questions. So feel free, anybody, for the panelists here. Okay. Good. There's a mic just at the front here. Thanks, sir.
So with Cox is using Airties, you said all the management platform going into which gateways into commercial gateways for small office, home office, or gateways into like for management at residential areas?
For its gateways that go into the SMB space, right? So it's actually
Okay, just making
the
sure.
integrated gateway from Ventiva that we actually customize the RDK middleware for.
So that was my next question: is the interface between Airties and RDK is what? Like, how does it? What does that look like between the two? Because RDK, great, great standardized product, service platform, et cetera. What benefit does Airties bring to RDK that you can't do with your own RDK development in-house?
Well, so I think the key is, and that's why we've introduced our controller technology as part of the RDK software stack from an open source perspective, right? We are going to manage effectively that controller technology because from our perspective, it gives the RDK community a standard platform by which we will own and maintain and ensure that the controller technology is following the roadmap that EasyMesh defines. And as we start to look at long-term the features that we bring in, we look in terms of our TLV extensions, long-term downstream of what EasyMesh is doing and bring those in possibly earlier. So from a RDK perspective, our position was we saw this as a strategy from a company perspective for us, number one, because we wanted to get out of the low-level driver chipset work, which was really impacting our ability to innovate and ideate in areas where we were really strong, higher layer application, right, above chipset. And so by having that controller and managing that controller, we could really then focus on the things that we could bring to the table. But from our perspective, it was important because we are effectively a part of that RDK stack. We just, for the RDK community, are managing that controller technology itself. Now, from that standpoint, the beauty of this is for anybody who takes RDK, you don't have to take our solution, right? So it's a binary switch, effectively. If you just want the standard controller technology with none of our analytics, none of our steering, none of our channel management, channel planning, any of our cloud telemetry, you can do that, right? You just take the standard controller. But then if you would like that, you have that ability to flip the switch on and then take our enhanced services. The idea being anybody can do that, right? So it's not just us, but anybody who comes in and follows that controller technology standard can also do the same thing. Our goal was to be able to be an innovator in the space, not to create large barriers to entry just because of our proprietary technology. And so Met and our founders saw this as really the vision of where we needed to go, both in terms of RDK as well as in Purple.
Looks like there's a lot of overlap between open Wi-Fi, open LAN, and what you guys are doing. This is obviously a more commercialized version of that. But is that something that you would look at in the future, is being able to work with a technology like that to provide some type of open source layer in there?
Possibly. I mean, I would probably lean to Sarper, who heads up our R&D organization from a, where do we go 10 years down the road, right? I think certainly all things are a potential. But yeah, from our perspective, it was really about where we saw the industry from a tier 1, tier 2 perspective coalescing around Purple, coalescing around RDK, right? And we all know from an operator perspective, one of the biggest struggles operators like Cox have is that proprietary lock you end up getting yourself into with whether it be a hardware provider or a software provider. And while they bring great value initially, when they have that lock, that high barrier to entry creates kind of a stymie in innovation and technology. So we saw that as an opportunity, right, to be able to step in and deliver that. But yeah, in terms of open Wi-Fi and future partnerships, yeah, those are all certainly things that we could entertain. Sure.
Anything to add or any other questions from the audience? We can take one more, otherwise. Okay.
Question.
Aaron?
I'm sorry, I missed.
Yeah,
Sorry, we didn't catch you.
How many access points that run Purple are deployed this week?
That's a good question. I could not speak as to how many worldwide have deployed Purple as of today. I would say that it's probably not too large, right, given where the Purple initiative is at this point in time. But it's definitely, from a standard perspective, one that we're seeing is getting a lot of attraction from our current customers as well as potential future customers. Yeah. And just to clarify on the Cox solution, so everybody understands, the hardware is built by an OEM. Synamedia delivers the RDK stack. We then are integrated as a controller technology into that stack. And then they also take our APIs and effectively act as a proxy for our APIs that feed to the Cox cloud via Gravity, tool sets as well. So it is a multi-partner solution here across hardware, software, and integrated software.
Okay, well, I think we're going to move on, but thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
Congratulations on the partnership. Thank you for your support. And yeah, we can, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.